Hey guys, welcome back to L&D Home. We have a real life intro here because I forgot to film one, so here we are. Welcome to our channel. Today we have some fall DIYs for you guys. You guys know I love fall. I say it every video. That's what we're doing today. Using mostly Dollar Tree products. Crazy. I love how these turned out. And hint, hint, the first one, my absolute favorite. So if you want to see the fall DIYs I made, then let's get to this. Let's do it. For our first DIY, we're going to be using these wood cubes. I got these from Dollar Tree. They are hard to find, so you can always use the foam dice. You just won't be able to do the staining technique. This you're going to see is some orange acrylic paint that I watered down a lot. I didn't want this to be really opaque. I wanted to see the wood grain through this because the wood grain on these cubes is beautiful. And I'm not a super fan of bright colors. So this was a way for me to really incorporate that fall orange, but tone it down just a little bit so I could really see the wood grain through and it wasn't quite as vibrant. I gave all of these one coat and then I went back on spots where it looked a little sparse or the colors didn't match very well, and just gave kind of a second coat to just those areas and then set them on a paper towel so that they could dry. Once they were all dry, I decided that I wanted to use a stencil. I usually use my Cricut vinyl, but I know not everyone has a Cricut, and I thought that the stencil would just look really nice because it would actually really be kind of like on the wood and nice and rustic instead of like a shiny piece of vinyl over the wood. So basically what I did is I lined up the stencil where I wanted it, and I did painter's tape to hold it down, but also painter's tape over the letters next to it so I didn't have any mishaps and get paint where I didn't want it. And I am just spelling out the word fall if you have not guessed. I'm using Plaster Waverly chalk paint and a sponge brush from the Dollar Tree. Excuse me, goodness, can't talk today. And this stencil is also from Dollar Tree, and so is the painter's tape actually. Now I am just hot gluing some embellishments on the top. These leaves came off of a pick. I believe it was either from Dollar Tree or Walmart, and I just cut the leaves off. I think it was a Walmart pick. And I'm gluing one leaf on each of the blocks, as well as just a little wooden stem. Again, I just cut off some pieces of that tree branch that we have in our garage, and that is what I'm using as my little stems. Nice and rustic, super cute. And I just make sure that the leaves are kind of facing the same way. You'll see I was trying to decide there, but I decided I liked them all going the same direction, so it wasn't too busy. Now I'm just trying to decide how I want to attach them. I wanted that staggered effect, so I just lined them up the way that I wanted them to be staggered. And what I ended up doing was connecting FA together first and LL together, and then connecting those two pieces. I felt this was the easiest way to do it to make sure I kept my lines. I am going to be taking a pen and I'm going to be marking the back. That way I know exactly where to put my hot glue and I don't go too far over. Here's how our DIY turned out. I absolutely love this. It reminds me of something I would find at Hobby Lobby or one of those stores that we all love but don't want to pay for. And it cost me like $5 to make this, guys. $5. Seriously, one of my favorites that I have made so far, just ever. First DIY, we're going to be using these small wooden crates from Dollar Tree. We're going to be working with 3 of them today. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be kind of giving them a stain effect. I'm going to be using some acrylic paint by Apple Barrel. This is the color Melted Chocolate, and it is very, very watered down because I'm almost out of it. I need to get some more. So I'm just brushing all of that on, and then I'm going to be taking a paper towel and I'm going to be wiping it off so I have kind of that stained effect and it's not too opaque. One tip I should probably give is to make sure that you have enough paint. because I started running out when I was on my third box, and you may be able to notice in a second that that third box is a little bit lighter than the rest of them, but that's okay. I'm going to be gluing these together, and I just decided to put that lighter box in the middle, so you didn't kind of notice and it wasn't odd on one end. So in order to glue these together, I'm going to be using my clips to hold while it dries and just some hot glue. And I'm just going to be putting a good amount of hot glue all over the sides, placing them together, and then making sure they're clamped and they're fully dry. Now I'm just going to be taking some floral foam. This is a 4-pack of smaller bits, and I'm going to be using 3 of those, 1 for each of our boxes. And I am going to be hot gluing this in because the florals I'm going to be using are fall related, but I can always take those florals out and make this just an everyday centerpiece. But I don't want things to be moving around or shifting around while it's on our table. I then decided to do some dry brushing with plaster chalk paint by Waverly. And yes, that's a Post-it. That's what I'm going to be using to knock the paint off my brush because, well, they were available and right there. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of dry brushing, and I wanted to focus more on kind of those ridges, those outside edges, and those lines that you see in the box, but also giving the entire piece a little bit of a dry brush as well. The first floral I'm taking is from Dollar Tree. This is their fall grass. They had a couple different colors, but I really liked this kind of red color. And it's going to be kind of hard to see because I was off camera a little bit, but basically with these, I just wanted to push them up. I wanted it to look really, really full. So some of these have 2, 3, 4 kind of sprigs on them, and I pretty much just pushed them all to the top and then cut it nice and short so it looked really, really full. So you're going to see me add to the middle here, but I am going to change my mind in a second because I felt like it was looking just a little bit sparse, so I decided to add some floral moss. Just because you could see the floral foam and it just wasn't looking full and beautiful. So I'm just going to take those pieces out. I'm going to add some floral moss to the top of each of these crates and then keep going with my fall florals. I ended up only using 1 bundle of these fall florals from Dollar Tree, 1 for each crate, so 3 bundles total. I'm also taking these leaves from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be using the pumpkin on there and kind of like little berries. So this is pumpkin maple from Dollar Tree, and I just felt like it needed some different colors and textures. So they have some little white berries on here and these really beautiful like muted orange pumpkins. I just really loved that, and I believe that I used 2 of these, so I cut the pumpkins and the sprigs off of 2 of these, or it might have been 1, I can't remember. I think it was 2, and I'm just placing those pumpkins in there. And then I grabbed some pumpkins from my stash that I just had from last year. I don't remember where I got these from, but they're little small pumpkins, and I just felt like it needed a little bit more pizzazz. It was looking a little drab to me. Here's how this DIY turned out. Love this as well. I like that it's very, very slim. It doesn't take up a lot of space on the table. You can eat and talk to people and have stuff all over and not be worried about it getting in the way. And because we didn't glue in the florals, you can use this for any season, anytime, all year round. Love this. So cute. For our final DIY in this video, I'm going to be using this piece I made from painter's sticks for a different project, and it just did not work out, so I had it left over. And I'm also going to be using long dowels and short dowels, both from the Dollar Tree. You can see the long ones are just not long enough for the piece I have, so I'm using that short one, measuring, and then I'm just using my wire cutters and I'm snipping and turning, and eventually it will just snap off, and then you will have your piece. Next, I'm going to be taking a little bit of sandpaper because those edges are going to be very, very rough. So I just want to sand them smooth so that I can hot glue the longer piece and the shorter piece together. You will notice, hopefully, that I kind of staggered it where there wasn't a seam like right underneath the other one. I tried to stagger it so it would make sense. And when I'm gluing these pieces of dowel rods onto my flat surface, I want to make sure I get that hot glue right up to the very edge, and I even kind of twisted and turned the dowel a little bit just to make sure it was fitting nicely on that very edge. Now that everything is nice and secure, I'm ready to paint. I'm using a brush from Dollar Tree and my Waverly Plaster Color, and I'm just giving this one coat. I did do about 1.5 coats on those edges, but just for that top, I'm literally doing one coat, slapping it on there, making sure it is nice and covered, and making sure I'm getting in all those nooks and crannies so it all looks nice and seamless. While I'm waiting on my frame to dry, funny story about that in a minute, I decided to take this art, and this is actually from Dollar Tree, and I thought it was really awesome. Fall vibes without saying fall on it, but I just didn't like the gold. So I'm using kind of a mixed color that I just had mixed at one point in time out of a bunch of different acrylic paints, and I am doing the leaves. And then I decided to do Hello Elephant by Waverly, but you will notice when I do the reveal and when we start gluing this to our sign, that elephant was too dark, and I ended up doing Steel by Waverly instead. And this took a ton of coats, guys, like a ton. I actually had to like dab it on almost like a stencil for it to cover, but I'm in love with the way it turned out, so it was all worth it. Now we are ready to get our sign looking a little bit better. We have those rusty, rugged, just jagged edges. Gosh, they look so bad. So we're going to cover it up because we can. And we're going to put some twine, just one string of twine all the way around our frame to make it look a little more polished and a little less like a 5-year-old did it. While I'm finishing my twine and getting ready to glue my Hello on, I have to tell you this embarrassing story. So I was too impatient to wait for this to dry, and I didn't feel like getting out my heat gun. So I popped this in the oven, guys, because you can dry things in the oven as long as they're like wood on a very low temp. But I forgot about the hot glue. Y'all, all of the frame completely fell off. All of those dowels that I put on, and I had to re-glue it. So I'm pretty sure my edges look a little bit more ratchet than they should because I did that. So don't be impatient like me. Wait for your project to dry, please, okay? Especially if you're using hot glue. Don't put them in the oven. No idea what's going on with the camera here, but I am just gluing our Hello sign in the middle, and I wanted to leave it just simple, just like this, because I thought it was just really easy peasy, and I like the simple look. So here's what we have. Here's our finished project. I love it so much. Let me know in the comments below which DIY was your favorite from today. And make sure you check out the fall related video above as well as the playlist. Make sure that you comment, like, subscribe, and come back for our next video because you guys are awesome sauce and we love you.